If you don't know about this shoe and you're checking out this video to find out about this shoe, welcome, and you're going to love it, because I was amazed at the story of this shoe. I had 4 different shoes I was thinking about doing for the 2 videos that I'm shooting today. Saturday afternoon I'm shooting 2 videos, one for Sunday which I've already shot, an Air Max 1 video about the sneaker day Air Max 1 pack, and then this video will go up on Monday, so that's Monday the 3rd of August, and this is the shoes dropping on the 6th of August. And so I was looking at, there's 4 different shoes I was thinking about doing, and the reason why this shoe kind of won out over the other ones was because of the details on it, and the more I looked at it, the more I dug into it, and the more I researched about it, the more I was impressed with the shoe. There's a lot to look at, which is kind of interesting because Jack Purcell's from the Converse line are, as most Converse shoes are, toned down, stripped back, very minimal, but not in the case of these guys. What they've done is they've put a whole lot into a very simple shoe, and it's worked really well. And I'm going to take you through that today, take you through all the detailing on there, take you through the story of the shoe, and explain to you why this is one of the best shoes that's going to come out in the month of August for sure. So stay tuned as we talk about the Jack Purcell Feng, Chen, Wang. This is the Tokyo Bada 23 Sneaker Channel, Tokyo Bada 23 Sneaker Channel des. Mainichi Upsuno de, Mainichi Mite Kudasai, and every single day from Tokyo, Japan, I bring you content about upcoming sneaker releases, sneaker news, and sneaker reviews. And today, what's in the spotlight is the Feng Chen Wang Converse Jack Purcells. Feng Chen Wang is a Chinese designer who's based in London, and her name's actually very important in all of this because to give you the story of the shoe, what I'll do first is we'll look at some Billies. There's a store here in Japan called Billies Tokyo. We'll look at some Jack Purcells that they did as a collaboration about a year ago, I would guess it was. And what you should be able to see is a very, very simple shoe, very stripped out, very minimal. And where they get the pop and the sort of hype of the shoe, or the power of the shoe, is in the design. It's not in the actual structure and the physical materials of the shoe. It's on what they put on that very simple silhouette. And then if we sort of flip that out and look at another one, it's Pop. There was a Pop shoe which I did pretty recently, I would guess in the last month or so, maybe 2 months, which was a really nice shoe, and it had a really great detail on it that's missing from these Feng Chen Wangs, and I was really disappointed to see that. And we'll get into what's missing from these shoes today in a minute. But these Pop guys here, there were 2 of them, but again, they're very simple, very toned back shoes, and the detailing and the branding is what makes them pop, not the actual physical shoe itself. And then if we come forward to today's shoe, very, very different. If you were to look at that, just the silhouette of it, just from the lateral side, I think you'd struggle to know it was a Converse, and if you did know it was a Converse, you'd struggle to know it was a Jack Purcell, because there's an awful lot going on. It's almost like a second upper is encasing that minimalistic standard upper on the Jack Purcell. You've got this extra layer on top, and that's the story of this shoe. Where it comes from is very impressive. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it up here. Hopefully up there what you've got is Feng Chen Wang, I think that's right, her name in Chinese. Now I apologize to people from China who are watching this if you speak Mandarin Chinese and that isn't in Chinese, because sometimes, maybe you know this, is that when you're working on computers and you put in, you're asking it to read Chinese, it sometimes reads it as Japanese, and the same in the opposite way. Sometimes you think you're getting Japanese and it actually reads it in Chinese. There are tiny differences between the languages. One single stroke different here sometimes it's major differences, completely different letters, but in the case of this right here, I think what we're looking at is the Chinese writing for Feng Chen Wang's name, and that's important, and what I hopefully have done is it's big enough for you to be able to look at it. And if you're not familiar with Chinese characters, they're called kanji here in Japan, and if you're not familiar with them, really look at them. And one of them is, I think it's the kanji for king, and it's got like rows of horizontal lines and then a vertical line up the middle. And then if you look at the other 2 characters, there's 3 in total, because the reason why you have to really get into those and understand what those characters are is that somehow Feng Chen Wang has taken her name and then used that to structure this extra layer of upper on these shoes. So if we go and look at one of them, there's 2. There's basically a black one and a white one, but I don't really want to call them black and white because the white one really fades into grey and the black one really fades into a darker grey as well. So there's a spectrum of colours, if you like, on there. So a grey black and a sort of light grey white versions. But anyway, I think we'll probably look at the black ones because you can see the definition between the different parts of the layer on there, and hopefully what you can see looking at the lateral side here is somehow that name, and hopefully I've left that name up there long enough for you guys to see, to compare her name in the traditional Mandarin Chinese characters and then how that has been transplanted onto the shoe. A phenomenal piece of design, a phenomenal piece of designing and technology to do that, and it's a really great story for a shoe, a very special way to take what is a very minimal shoe and then twist it out and put it in a new sort of different way. So I think that's a great piece of work, a great piece of design from the designer Feng Wang. So a very big yes for me. What was a very big no? What I'm going to do is I'm going to tell you about the thing that I was disappointed in the shoe, and then I'll tell you about a couple of things that I think are really noteworthy on the shoe in terms of branding. The thing I was disappointed, and I don't know which one I'll use because I think they're equally hard to see, but when you look at the heel on the back of Jack Purcell's, you have that square. It's like a license plate that you often see on all Converse shoes, you know, Chuck Taylors and like these Jack Purcell's, and I thought they could have done something with the branding. I was really disappointed that it just sticks with the traditional standard Converse branding and doesn't add any of that Feng Wang in there. And what I'm talking about is the pops. If we go back to those pops I talked about before, you can see that they removed that branding completely, and then if you zoom in on it, actually what's left, it looks like kind of the bracing that would have held that branding in place. What's left is actually Pop's design, and I thought that was really, really cool. It was a very kind of innovative piece of branding on the shoe, and I think they could have done that with these, which is a bit disappointing for me. But what isn't disappointing is the two places that you do get the designer's branding on the shoe, and it's not too far to go from the very back of the heel to the lateral side of the heel and down one of those sort of spines that make up the upper on these guys. You can see Feng Wang's got her name imprinted there. It's pretty subtle, and I appreciate that. When it's a designer or anyone who's collaborating with this shoe, I'm sure that there's an instinct to sort of go with pop and contrast so that the name and the shoe both stand together. But actually, in the case of these guys having Feng Wang's name very subtly imprinted there on the black ones, I think we'll be looking at right now. And then we'll flip it out to the white ones, and you can see it's not contrasted at all. It is obviously there, but I appreciate that. I like it when people aren't too sort of overbearing in their designs, things like that. And then the second place where you can see her name imprinted on the shoe is if you go down and look on the insole there, you can see that Converse branding there, and then Feng Wang's name there as well. So you've got a couple of places that pay homage to the designer and kind of give her part of the shoe because it is designed by her. And then the last thing that I want to look at, actually there's two things I want to look at. One is the toe box, because on the toe on Jack Purcell's there's a sort of double layer effect, which is kind of the signature of the shoe, and it's pretty much the only thing that's left other than that branding on the heel to actually tell you it is a Jack Purcell, because otherwise, you know, that whole second upper on there, very difficult to see the shoe itself that's hiding underneath. But the other thing I wanted to look at was the outsole. It's a very simple outsole on these guys. I think I only have a picture of the grey one. I don't think I was able to find the white ones, but I'm sure it's very, very similar, you know, just the same structure, and that's the simple sort of story of Converse shoes. That outsole right there is the story of Converse shoes in a nutshell. Very simple, very minimalistic, very sort of drawn back, and that's what makes these shoes, and we'll come back to look at them again, that's what makes these shoes so special, is because they've taken that very simple shoe, that very minimalistic shoe, and put an extra layer on it that gives it this pop and takes it to a next level as far as Jack Purcell's and Converse go, and I think it's going to be a really big shoe. I think a lot of people will be interested in this, especially in the high-end fashion world. So a big yes for me. I think it's very cool. That one little bit on the back there where they could have done a little bit more with the branding doesn't take away from what are two very, very nice shoes, and they kind of stand in contrast with yesterday's shoe, that Air Max 1 sneaker day shoe I was talking about, because those were two shoes very different in their design, their construction and their materials, but then these guys today, they're almost identical shoes in material, construction and silhouette, but the detail is in that color and that change from white to black as far as the design of the shoe goes. And that's my video done for today. I said in my video yesterday that I'm shooting two videos back to back today, so I can do Sunday's video and Monday's video, and it's already 5 p.m. here, which means it's getting late in the day. The sun will set around about 6:30, 6:45 p.m. So in this cool, beautiful evening breeze that's kicking up around about the mid to high 20s, it's a perfect time for me to take my little girl to the park and have a run around. So I'm going to go do that. Hope you appreciate the content today. I appreciate you checking it out. But you know what? I do this every single day. So that means that if you want to see me, you're guaranteed to see me tomorrow.